Hey, Trailblazers. There's always been one stop between Houston and the Guadalupe Mountains that has mattered to me the most, and that's my stop at Mom's Kitchen Express in Van Horn, Texas. Over the years, I've told our hiking community about this little gym out in West Texas and to swing by when they're heading to the Guads for a wonderful meal. For me, it was always a joy to stop by and hear Mr. Espinosa saying, "Another one of your hikers stopped by for a meal." They had to close the restaurant down for a couple of years due to family needs, but there's some exciting news. Mom's Kitchen Express is open once again. Same wonderful recipes, and it still feels like home. And it still carries the legacy of the man who loved this land as much as we do. So if you're heading out to the Guadalupe Mountains or just passing through Van Horn, make sure you stop by for a meal and to tell them hi from the Trailblazing Texas podcast community. Mr. Espinosa, you were missed. Now on with the episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast. I'm your host, Jason. And today as a guest, we have Interpretive Ranger Kate coming to us all the way from the newest Texas state park to open up, Palo Pinto Mountain State Park. Kate, welcome to the podcast.
Well, howdy, hey. Thank you for having me, Jason.
Absolutely. And I was thinking right before logged on and got ready for the podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, you are the first Interpretive Ranger for the park.
I am, yes, sir.
How cool is that to be in the history book? So 100 years from now, somebody may go, who was the very first Interpretive Ranger? And it's your name.
Yeah, it is really cool. Interpretation in and of itself is really cool. But to be the first interpreter at a park, to be able to not only see how a park is built, but to get to start building the interpretive program, start gathering supplies, writing different events and programs, writing literature for the park. It's been really great. It's been fantastic to be a part of. It's been very exciting. I've enjoyed every bit of it.
All right. So are you ready to dive into everything about Palo Pinto Mountain State Park?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. But before we start, the listeners know what's coming. I don't know how familiar you are with the podcast, but I have a lightning round. These are questions that you've not seen, just the first words that pop into your mind. And also, there is another first. You were the first Interpretive Ranger. You are also the first Ranger on the Trailblazing Texas podcast to get lightning round questions from your peers.
Let's go.
If the questions are hard, I will give you the person that submitted the question and the park, and you can track them down and thank them.
I love it. Love it.
All right. First question from Nikki, superintendent at Lake Brownwood State Park. If you had to work at a different state park just for a day, which park would you choose?
Honey Creek State Natural Area.
All right. From Andrew at Inks Lake. If money was not an issue, and this is probably a really interesting question for you being at a brand new state park and how your involvement kind of like has built the programs and stuff. But if money was not an issue, what is one guest amenity or activity that you would add to the park?
If money was not an issue, a specialized stargazing area.
All right. I love this question. It's from Craig at Abilene State Park. What work-related accomplishment are you most proud of?
Oh, oh my gosh. There's so many different ways I could take that. I could take it as things that I have done in parks. I could take it as awards. So
However you want.
I actually think probably the one that I am most proud of was starting hiking with homeless dogs when I was at Abilene. So I worked there before Craig started working out there and reached out to the local animal shelter there in Abilene and started doing hiking with homeless dogs to help get some dogs adopted and kind of talk about safety in parks with pets.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, this question is from Hannah at eRock. What is the most restful, peaceful place in your park?
Most restful and peaceful. There is a portion along the Texas and Pacific Trail just past Rocky Bottom. So Rocky Bottom is created by a low water dam that holds back Palo Pinto Creek. So if you go a little ways past it, there's an area that we have kind of cleared. It's not very big. It's maybe 15, 20 yards that we cleared so that people could walk up to the bank of Palo Pinto Creek. And it's shaded by all the hardwood trees. So all the cottonwoods, all the pecans, all the oaks. It's really well shaded right there. The water is blue, like kind of like a turquoise blue. When the water is when we haven't gotten a lot of rain, it's just still. If we have gotten rain, it'll be just moving pretty peacefully and quietly along. And the ability to just sit there on that bank, listen to the birds. During the fall, you'll see the monarchs flying through there.
Nice. All right. So Junior submitted a few questions. You're going to get two of them. Junior from Tyler State Park. So the first question is, what is your favorite thing about your park?
Oh my gosh, might be the history. We have a really interesting history with the railroad and with just kind of like that industrial revolution, a ghost town, and with oil. Like there's a really interesting.
Wow.
So it is something that I just kept reading about. Like I don't have a degree in history. I have a degree in wildlife science. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And I just kept reading and it was fascinating.
Oh, nice. All right. His second question, what drives you to come to work every day?
What drives me to come to work every day? If you haven't seen this park, you should see this park. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And then just the opportunity to be able to share that with people is absolutely phenomenal.
I love it. All right. Last question from your peers. This is from Noah, the interpretive ranger at Mission Tejas. When hiking at your site, which of these four things would you say is more important for hikers to be aware of for safety? Wildlife, incoming traffic like bikers or equestrians, the terrain, or the weather?
I would say terrain. Most of our trails are pretty good and wide. So even though you can have multiple different users on the trail, like you can have horses and bikes, like there's room for everybody on most of our trails. What sneaks up on everybody is the elevation change. So that's like anytime that we do rescues out here, that is usually the thing that we hear is like, man, these hills are no joke. So the terrain is definitely one that will sneak up on you.
All right. So now for the normal lightning round questions, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset,
Favorite trail snack?
Cheez-Its.
All right. Most underrated thing about Palo Pinto Mountain State Park?
Oh, the most underrated thing about Palo Pinto Mountain State Park.
You can pass or you can say there's nothing underrated.
I'm gonna go ahead and pass because we're new, and so I don't know if there's an area that's underrated yet. People are still very much discovering a lot of things.
All right. What is one item every visitor should bring?
Water, lots of water.
What is a wildlife sighting that you would love that every visitor would experience?
Turkeys,
Nice. Hiking boots or trail runners?
hiking boots,
Best sound in the park?
golden cheek warbler.
One word that best describes the park?
Uh, surprising.
Best advice you could give for first-time visitors, besides making a reservation?
Take your time. The wildflowers are going to surprise you. The views are going to surprise you. The geology is going to surprise you. So take your time.
All right. I love this question. If Palo Pinto Mountain State Park had a theme song, what would it be?
Um, oh gosh, that's a good one. Can I come back to that one?
Absolutely. You sure
Okay.
can. And you could even answer it at the very end of the podcast.
I just need to sit and think on it for a minute.
No. We can come back to it. All right, pick your poison. Lead a hike in the heat or in the cold?
Cold.
One giant hill or 5 sneaky little hills?
Hmm. 5 sneaky little hills.
All right. Sunrise hike with no coffee or a sunset hike with mosquitoes?
Hmm. Sunrise, no coffee.
Ooh, okay. Trail full of spider webs or loose rock?
Loose rock.
All right. Backpacking trip. Forget your pillow or your headlamp.
Hmm. Pillow.
Hike with someone who talks nonstop or someone who walks way too fast.
Talks nonstop.
All right. You survived the lightning round. I hope you enjoyed it. I know the listeners do, and it's one of my favorite parts of the episode. But coming up next is my favorite part of the episode. We're going to dive down into talking about Palo Pinto Mountain State Park. But first is getting to know you as a ranger. So, first question, how did you get in this line of work?
Oh, so I grew up always having a passion for the outdoors, and I always wanted to do something with it. And so I grew up in a family that was very sporty instead of outdoorsy. So I spent time outside, but I didn't go hiking until after college. Well, I didn't go camping until after college. I went hiking for the first time in college. I had been fishing twice in my childhood, so wasn't super outdoorsy, but I did play a lot of sports. When I grew up, I had this passion for the outdoors. My parents supported me in going to get my degree to pursue that passion that we're not really sure where it came from. I was just born with it.
Yeah.
I was really passionate about wanting to protect outdoor spaces and protecting native wildlife. So I originally wanted to go into the Game Warden Academy was where I was wanting to go. And then I actually started working at Abilene, and that's where I started doing interpretation. Absolutely fell in love with interpretation because you have the opportunity to be able to share about all these aspects of either history or culture or the ecosystem. And you can share about all of these things and help people learn the importance of these things and why we need to protect them before there's anything that happens, whether that could be carving their name into a tree. Like you can explain like the importance of not doing that and help build that value. And so I was like, "All right, we're doing interpretation." And so that's kind of how I got into interpretation specifically. But as far as being a ranger and working in the outdoors is something that I've always had a passion for.
How long have you worked for Texas Parks and Wildlife?
So I started with the agency in 22. So I've been here for 4.5 years, coming up on 4.5 years.
So, do you remember your first real experience in the outdoors that kind of made an impact on you?
So my grandparents had some friends that had a cabin in the mountains in New Mexico, and we went out there twice when I was a kid. I absolutely loved those mountains. They were gorgeous. That was something that was really impactful. So I would help my grandmother make feed for the hummingbirds, and we would play puzzles at the cabin and pick flowers and watch the sunset from the back porch type deal, which was just really, really cool. So,
Nice. Love it. So, what led you specifically to Palo Pinto Mountain State Park? So, I guess you're up in Abilene and you're just like, I need a change.
so I grew up in Fort Worth and I went to school at Tarleton in Stephenville. When I graduated school in Stephenville, I went to work out at Abilene. So my husband and I are both very close with our families, and our families were in Fort Worth and Waco. And so Abilene just felt really far away. And then
Yeah.
the opportunity came up at Palo Pinto, which brought us closer to our families. And so it felt a little bit like getting to come back to my own stomping grounds. So I'm a little closer to home and a little closer to where I went to school. That's kind of one of the things. And then of course, the opportunity of getting to be the first interpreter out here. You put all that together, and I was like, "Man, I'm not passing this up."
Nice. I love this question, and it's if I go look back, I think you're probably the 19th or 20th state park that comes on, and the answer that you guys have, it's almost like it's the same, but I love asking it even though it's kinda the same. It's funny to see y'all's faces, the smiles, and the giggles. So, for an interpretive ranger, what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day. I feel like there's not really a
Yes.
typical day for a ranger.
Yep, that's the same answer that they all give.
And it's something that, like, one of my sisters likes to ask me all the time. She's like, "So what does a typical day look like for you?" And so I can give an example of one day that happened a couple of months ago that I actually sent to my sister. I was like, "Here's what a day looks like for me." So we were doing our golden cheek warbler surveys during that time. Golden cheek warbler surveys, you have to do them during a certain time of the day, and there's certain weather that you can do them in because the birds don't sing if it's rainy or too windy or this, that, or the other. So I got to work that day, and it was drizzly and windy, and so the birds weren't singing. So I was like, "Well, I guess we're not doing surveys today, even though it's what I had my morning blocked off for."
Yeah.
And so then I worked on putting together some social media posts for the park, trying to get that organized. And then I had a meeting with a partner group to start discussing getting folks out here and holding programs and events. Went to a school where I did a program about birds. And then I came back and I did a program at the park. Just kind of everything's constantly changing and it's a little bit of everything. So from getting to do conservation work to doing outreach to doing education. So everything changes a little bit. Oh, and I repaired some fishing equipment that day as well.
Yeah, so I love asking that question. And this is another question I like to ask. What do you see as the most challenging part of your job that maybe visitors may not see or may not understand that's kind of part of your job?
Part of my job is like social media and doing outreach events. Growing up as a kid, I loved doing social media and now I get to do it as part of my job. But also when I'm taking pictures of plants or animals that are in the park, I'm also tracking the different species that are in the park. So it's kind of like a 2 for 1. Like, I took a picture, it's for social media, but it's also being logged as a sighting of this species. That's part of my job. There's a lot of writing, specifically in what I'm doing out here with getting this program up and running. So the if you go to our website, I helped write the pages that are on the website for the park. So the overview, the ecology, the history, I helped write those. The interpretive center in our headquarters, like I helped with writing that. I helped with writing our brochure. I helped with writing and designing our maps that we give to folks. So writing is also kind of a big part of what I do out here as well.
So it's not just outdoor fun.
Yeah. So there's plenty of time that I spend on a computer writing or interpreting data or entering data online as well. So,
All right, so look, I'm a huge hiker, backpacker. I understand about, favorite spots. I'm not gonna ask you for a location. This is just a yes or no question. But do you already have a favorite spot in the park?
yes.
Nice. So, for the listeners who may not be familiar with the park and exactly the location, where is it located?
So if you are looking at a map and you're looking at I-20 on a map between Fort Worth and Abilene, we are right in the middle. So we are 75 miles from Fort Worth and we are 75 miles from Abilene. So just like 5 to 7 miles north off of I-20. So that's probably the easiest way for folks to be able to find us. If you know where Stephenville is, we are 30 minutes north of Stephenville. If you know where Mineral Wells is, we are 45 minutes west of Mineral Wells.
So, can you give us a little bit of the history of the park?
Yeah, absolutely. So the park has, like I said, it's a really interesting history. Um, so one of the first things is that people come out here and they think mountains? Really? But our mountains are actually the same age as the Rocky Mountains. Significantly old structures, but the difference is when these mountains were forming back in the Pennsylvanian period, like 300 million years ago, this entire area was underwater. So there was a giant ocean that was on top of all of this. And so as the tectonic activity started pushing those mountains up, 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 you also had the ocean on top pushing down because of gravity. And so as they were going up, we have a bunch of sedimentary rock out here that's brittle. And so when it gets pushed up by the tectonic plates, but pushed down by the ocean, that rock broke and the mountains actually folded in on themselves. And so that created a very specific geological feature that we have out there called cuestas. And cuesta, roughly translated, means slope. So when you look at them, they're going to be flat topped mountains that have a steady slope on one side, but a drop off on the other side. But Palo Pinto Cuestas doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way that Palo Pinto Mountains does.
Yeah, for sure. So, what do you think makes this park unique compared to other Texas state parks?
Oh man, we have a lot of water sources out here, which always surprises folks. So we have three main bodies of water. We've got Tucker Lake, which is considered the crown jewel of the park, but it is fed by Russell Creek that comes up from the south. So during FDR administration, Russell Creek was impounded to create Tucker Lake as a backup water source for the city of Strawn, just 4 miles down the road from us. And then when the water goes over the spillway of the lake, it flows into Palo Pinto Creek, which runs along our entire northern border. So we've actually got a lot of water sources in the park, which tends to be something that folks don't realize.
So, what kind of experience are you hoping visitors walk away with upon their visit?
Man, what kind of experience. I hope they're having a fantastic experience getting to explore this park and see the beauty that is out here to be able to experience the different ecosystems, especially out on our trails. Getting to start out at the juniper topped ridges of our mountains and descend down into what is known as the hardwood bottomlands along our creeks and along the different tributaries of the creeks and along the lake as well, getting to be able to experience that. Yeah. So it's a unique experience.
So, how has the local community responded to the park opening up?
It's been very positive. So I've heard lots of positive feedback. Folks are really excited.
It was amazing. I had Caprock, so Natalie on at Caprock, and she was talking about. I think the town is Kickapoo, Kicka. I can't ever pronounce it, but there was like talks of them supporting the park when they were getting their night sky certification. That working on having like certain street lights or certain lights where the light points down so it doesn't impact that night sky and stuff. And so
Yeah.
it was really neat to see how the state parks and the local communities kind of work together for kind of a common goal. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Out here, we have a great relationship with Strawn just 4 miles down the road from us. 'Cause like I said, the lake is actually their backup water source, and so, there's certain areas of the lake around it that used to be a Strawn City Park. The city of Strawn was having to maintain those areas. Well, now that it's part of the state park, we maintain it, but they still have, the water rights to the water in the lake, and they, can still use it when they need to. That means we're here to help protect that resource for them.
So let's get into the hiking, the trails, the exploration that the park offers. How many miles of trail are in the park?
We have 16 miles of trails. And they are multi-use trails. So all of them allow hiking and cycling. I believe it's 14 miles of trails allow horseback riding. And then we've got 1.25 mile of accessible trail included in all of those 16 miles.
Are the trails all dog friendly?
Yes, yeah. So they are all dog friendly as long as the dog is on a leash and under control. So awesome trails in general.
So, what kind of terrain should hikers expect?
Yeah, so I was talking earlier about how the terrain and elevation will sneak up on folks. So where our trailheads start, most of the trails are going to descend down either to along the lake or along the creeks. And that descent, you're looking at about 100-foot descent all the way down to walking along those creeks. And then the terrain itself is very rocky. So there's lots of limestone, there's lots of loose rock. Some of our trails were once old ranch roads, and so there's lots of gravel as well. So we have what are called aggregate surface trails, which are going to look like gravel roads, but they're trails now, so no vehicles go down those. And then we have our natural surface trails, which are very rocky with lots of loose rock. There's some areas that we've put down sand to help with the water runoff, so the water can go through the sand a bit easier. And then we have the accessible surface trails as well. So three different surfaces when you come out.
Would you say that most of the trails are beginner friendly or more intermediate to advanced?
So on our trail map, we have them kind of marked as easy or moderate. I wouldn't say that we have any that are considered difficult, but most of the moderate ones are gonna be moderate because of the sheer distance. So our Tucker Lake Trail starts at the main trailhead, and it stops when you get to Crappie Cove, and that is a little over 4 miles. And again, it's 4 miles descending down 100 feet and then up and around and down, and so you're having lots of elevation changes throughout that 4+ miles around the lake, or the Texas and Pacific Trail is considered moderate because if you hike that, it's basically what's called a lollipop trail is you go out, there's a loop at the end, and then you hike back. So if you hike that entire thing, you are hiking 11 miles. So it's just a really long trail. And again, you're descending down and you're having that elevation change as you go.
So, if a listener only had time to hike a trail in the park, what trail is that must hike trail?
The must hike trail, probably the Tucker Lake Trail. So take Tucker Lake and then you get on Ben's Trail, and that will complete a 5-mile loop around the park. So you'll need Tucker Lake Trail and Ben's Trail to complete that loop. It is absolutely stunning the entire way. There's a small limestone sinkhole along the way. There's stunning views of the lake up on the ridges. There is an impressive bridge as well. There's some rocky overhangs that when we get rain, you get a little bit of a trickle of a waterfall. Not an impressive waterfall, but it's like a nice surprise when you come around the corner and you see it. So it's definitely a good hike.
When you're on the trails, the navigation of the trails marked pretty well, and or is there any like maybe some sections that people should know about?
So all of the trailheads are marked so that people know which trail that they are on. Beyond that, we're still working on getting signage out here to help make things a little more clear. So making sure that you know where you are, how far you're going, use that trail map. And when you get to like our main trailhead, there's a map there as well to make sure that you know where you're going. Yeah, we're still working on making sure that those are a little clearer
In your opinion, what is the best time to hit the trails?
in the morning.
In the morning?
In the morning. So that's before the sun comes out and it gets super hot. But also, when there's a lot of humidity, you'll get a mist or a fog on the hills, which is just gorgeous. I'm a big fan of the moody weather, whether it's foggy outside or if it's misty outside, gray skies. I'm a big fan of that. So, and the morning time is the best time to be able to actually see that.
I'm about I'm about 30 minutes from the Lone Star Hiking Trail, Trailhead 1, and probably about 48 minutes from Trailhead 15, and so I'm out there almost every weekend, and there is nothing like getting up early in the morning on that kind of misty, foggy morning, and the sun's, breaking through the tall pines. It's absolutely spectacular, and man,
Yes.
I can I get so mad if I wake up too late and I get to the trailhead, the sun's already up, and maybe there's some burn off of that stuff. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And our Cross Timbers Trail, if you go out on a misty, foggy morning, Cross Timbers is probably the best one to be able to see that.
Nice, nice. All right, what about camping and the overnight experience? What kind of camping options are available at the park?
So we have four different camping options in the park.
Okay.
We have our multi-use campground. So it is set up for RVs, but you can also do van camping there. You can do tent camping. But these multi-use sites have water and electric hookups, and they have a bathhouse that doubles as a storm shelter, and it also has a playground. So the campground has its own playground. That's going to be Warbler Ridge. It's our most popular campground. So that's a really good one. And for folks who are RV campers, our shortest RV pad is 50 feet. And we have a spot for you to park your vehicle next to the RV. So
Oh,
there's
wow.
plenty of parking on the actual sites themselves. Plenty of space. Those are really great. And then we've got our equestrian campground, which is Russell Creek Equestrian Campground.
Mhm.
So there's 10 sites there. They also have water and electric, but they have corrals for people to keep their horses in. I've seen people put two horses in a corral. I've seen people prefer to keep just one horse in a corral, but there are two corrals at each campsite for folks to be able to keep their horses in. And those pads for people to be able to park their trailers on are actually made out of caliche. It's supposed to be softer on horse hooves when they are getting in and out of trailers. It's not paved. It's got that caliche kind of looks like gravel. And they also have their own bathhouse that doubles as a storm shelter. And then we've got Painted Stick Primitive Campground. So there are 12 campsites in that campground, and that is walk-in camping. So when I say walk-in, it's going to be like approximately 10 feet to 30 yards from where you park your car to your campsite, depending on which campsite you get, depending on where you park your car in the parking loop. Those are some really cool campsites as well. There is one of the campsites, campsite 40, for anybody who is listening, has a phenomenal view of Russell Creek. So it's probably about 20 yards from where you park. So bring all your stuff to that campsite. All of those campsites have food storage boxes. People look at those and they like to ask if we have bears. We don't have bears, but we do have very crafty raccoons.
Yep.
So that's what the food storage boxes are for. And then there are picnic tables and lantern hooks and a fire ring at all of those campsites. There's no water at the individual campsites. There's a couple of water spigots that can be shared between campsites. And then there's a vaulted toilet in that campground as well.
What about for backpackers? Is there any kind of primitive
Yeah,
campsite? Yeah, yeah.
we've got Bristol Backcountry Campground. So you park your car and you hike 2 miles to Bristol Backcountry. So you hike out on the Texas and Pacific Trail, and that area has space for 13 campsites, but they are not designated as individual campsites. So it is an area that we maintain, but it's just an open area for you to set up your tent where you like. And there's a composting toilet right next to it. It's right off of Palo Pinto Creek. I would not recommend drinking from Palo Pinto Creek unless you have a way to be able to treat that water or just bring your own water in.
Yeah.
That is the campground that's the closest to the railroad. So we have trains that go up and down that railroad multiple times a day. So if you're a heavy sleeper like me, it does not bother me. But if you are a light sleeper, it's probably going to bother you. So just things to be aware of.
So if you look at kind of the overall experience that campers can expect overnight, is it more like a Garner where it's hustle and bustle? Is it more like a copper breaks where it's you feel like you're the only person in the campsite?
Um, we have had a lot of feedback from folks that they had no idea how many people were in the park. So first 2 months that we were open, we had 30,000 visitors.
30,000?
Yeah, it's a lot.
I bet you had some big programs.
Yeah, so folks were really happy to come out to the park to attend the different programs that we had. We had a lot of folks out there. Um, even opening day, like when we opened on March 1st, we had think I would need to double check these numbers, but I think we had 1,500 people in the park on opening day. My husband went to first day hikes where we had 500 people in the park, and then he also was there on opening day. And he gave the same feedback that everybody has been saying is that on opening day, because everybody was able to spread out to their own campgrounds and to the different day use areas, and on our 16 miles worth of trails, you could not tell that there were that many people in the park. So just because everybody is spread out, but also the design of the park, we were really intentional about leaving trees where we could to kind of give this air of this is your spot, this is your area of the park while you're here type deal. So we do have baby trees that we planted after the fact, but we're really intentional about trying to leave as much as we could during construction.
All right, just a little something special for the listeners. Outside of Campsite 40, are there any other campsites that stand out with views?
Oh man, there's a few in Warbler Ridge. So we don't have any campsites on the water, but we have a few campsites that have a nice view of the water. So campsite 40 is one of them.
Yeah.
And then there are three in Warbler Ridge. That's going to be site 15, 17, and 19. So you're up on a ridge, but during certain times of the year, if the branches have not leafed out, you'll get a view of Tucker Lake from up there.
So what is the night sky like out there?
It's gorgeous. Um, so we are currently working on getting dark sky certified. We're gathering
Really?
data and so we're working towards it. But I don't know if you've heard how long it takes
Yeah,
to
it's like
get
a
dark skies.
seven-year process.
It is a multi-year process. So I believe we are on year two on trying to get certified. So the average that I've heard is 3 years.
3? Okay.
That's the average that I've heard. Some parks take longer, some parks can get it pretty quick. It just kinda depends on the individual site. So, because we were a new build park, there were certain things that we took into account, such as, like, the lighting on our buildings. We were being mindful of, dark sky, certificate and trying to keep lighting low at night
Yeah.
or keeping it warm or just as minimal as possible type deal. And so we are working on getting our dark sky certificate. We had our second star party this past Saturday, which went fantastic. I think we had over 100 people at that program in partnership with the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. They have been phenomenal at helping us make those events possible. We've also done a few Story in the Stars events where I go out and I talk about the constellations and I share the different stories and legends that are told through the stars. Phenomenal opportunity. But from the readings that we've been getting, we are estimated to be a Bortle 3. Um,
Okay.
so for folks who might be listening, dark sky parks are measured on what's called the Bortle scale, which goes from 1 to 10. 10 being the equivalent of like downtown Fort Worth, where you can't really see anything in the sky other than planes. Um, but a 1 is the absolute darkest. And we only have one area in Texas that is a Bortle 1, and that is going to be the Big Bend area. But we are estimated to be a 3. So when you're out here, you can see the Milky Way. When meteor showers come through, you can see different meteor showers when they come through, which is really cool. So, yeah, the skies are gorgeous out here.
Nice. When you are going through this process, do you also reach out to other Texas state parks that have been through this kind of certification and try to get some pointers or help?
Yeah, so when we first started this, I believe we reached out to Big Bend Ranch and South Llano. I think we're the 2 that we reached out to try to get some pointers and some direction on how to go about doing things. And so they've been really helpful. We have also gotten some advice from folks at the Dallas Astronomical Society as well.
All right. Well, good luck to that. I can't wait for you guys to get approved and have another Texas state park with that certification.
Absolutely.
So, if you look at your time at the park and even like Abilene, what do you think is one big mistake that first time campers make?
A big mistake? I would say not talking to the rangers.
Yeah.
The rangers are a wealth of knowledge about the property. They can tell you about the ecosystems, they can tell you about the history, whatever it is that you're interested in. Not talking to the rangers and getting their advice on where to go, what to see, or even getting their advice on the local community, whether it's, hey, we want to go out to eat. What's your recommendations? Or what is a local museum or iconic local spot outside of the park, even that would be recommended? So the rangers are always a wealth of knowledge. But another thing that I see frequently is giving a park like this park is just this one thing type deal.
Yeah.
Like this park is just a fort. Like Fort Rich is just a fort. Fort Rich has a ton of wildlife and ecological opportunities for folks who might be into birding or hiking or fishing, or Abilene State Park, like viewing the park as, oh, this is just a park that has a pool. They are in the middle of where 3 different ecoregions combine. And so there's so much biodiversity that you wouldn't expect out there just outside of Abilene. So I guess that would be 2 big ones. Talking with folks about Palo Pinto working towards getting dark sky certificate, and they're like, "But you're so close to Abilene and Fort Worth," and getting to talk with folks like, "We've got stunning skies, even though when we're not that far from Fort Worth or Abilene, we're an hour and a half drive, and you can come out here and see the Milky Way." And so those would probably be the 2 big ones. Talk with the rangers and kind of, figure out the areas that are, most, iconic to go and visit, or maybe a new experience that you wouldn't expect,
Yeah.
but also being open to all of the different options that a park could have instead of putting each park in its own little category.
Also, this is to the listeners. If you want to make a Ranger's day, ask them a question.
Yes, yes, yes.
Attend a program.
Yes, yes, yes.
It it's funny, like I've talked about this before. My heaven on earth is Guadalupe Mountain National Park.
Mhm.
And I go there. I think I've been there maybe 27 times over the last 10 years. I've hiked, backpacked the whole park, found I think all the hidden gems. And when I show up to a park, I have an agenda. I have what trails, what you know, crazy things that I want to try to get accomplished, and never ever paid attention to the programs that Ranger Leah was putting on, or other rangers there at the park. And we were because you're, hey man, I gotta get checked in, I gotta head out before this, to get to this backcountry site, blah blah blah. And one day we walked in, visited with Ranger Leah, and she goes, hey, I have a program that I'm about to give. You guys want to hang out and listen to it?" I'm like, "Yeah, we got some time." Because we had a long drive, I think, to Dog Canyon. Her program was about, I think it was called Point. It's a YouTube video or a documentary called Assault on the Mountain. It was about five gentlemen in wheelchairs that went up to the highest peak in Texas and about their story. So, like 30 minutes into this presentation, I'm tearing up. My good friend Henning, he's tearing up. Our other friend, he's tearing up. Ranger Leah, she's tearing up. And, at that moment, I was like, I will never, ever go into a national park or a state park and not check out what the interpretive rangers or rangers have going on. And because it was the coolest experience that I had. And I kept my word. The next state park we went to was down in Mustang Island, and the Rangers had a program, and I was throwing spears at bisons or something like that. It was so much fun. And to the listeners, I told that story a few times on the podcast, and I can't stress it enough. The amount of time and effort that these Rangers put into these programs for us, I guarantee you, you will have the time of your life if you just walk in and just give 2 seconds to see what's going on and get involved. Because I promise you, I've said it 1,000 times on the podcast, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. So this is something that we are passionate about, and we really want folks to come and enjoy and to learn and to have that same experience. But yeah, yeah, come to our programs.
Yeah, and I've asked, I think probably every interpretive ranger, like, what's kind of the most memorable part of their job, and it's always like that little kid that they met and they caught their first fish, or the interactions with visitors and through these programs, and to see the joy and the bonding of families and the joy of people taking in the information or doing the activities. Yeah, it's again, to the listeners, get connected, get connected, get connected. Don't just go to the park
Yeah.
and hike a trail or set up your RV, see what's going on. You will not regret it.
The advice that I would give anybody who comes to the park, take your time.
Yes,
So take your time, look around, take a breath, take a moment, and have a conversation, ask a question.
absolutely. So speaking of wildlife, we kind of mentioned earlier, what kind of wildlife can visitors most likely see at the park? And, since you are from Abilene, I had no idea Texas had turkeys, and I almost got jacked by a turkey in the campsite. I, you know, I I always stop in Abilene because one of my friends who actually he was a guest on the podcast. He was the lost hiker at the Guadalupe Mountain National Park for like 5 days. And so we become friends. So every time I'm heading up to Caprock, I always stop and visit with him. And I'm like, maybe I don't get a hotel. I'll just stay at the state parks. And
Yeah.
I got there late, set up a tent, woke up early, and I'm packing up my tent. And you know how you're in these environments and like you just feel like somebody's watching you?
Yes. Yes.
I felt like, okay, there's something watching me. Somebody's looking at me. I just have that whatever. And I turned around and there's a turkey probably about six
My
feet
God.
from me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's about to happen? And, like, I kinda walked towards it to kinda shoo it away, and it literally, like, walked towards me, and then it stuck his head around me to look in my tent. I guess maybe I had snacks, and I'm like, "No, I'm not you're not getting anything from me." And, yeah, that was my first turkey experience. And so,
Yes.
yeah, what should the visitors expect?
So we have turkeys. So we have a healthy turkey population. They are shy. So there's a decent amount of them, but they are shy. And so if you get to see them or hear them, like it's a little bit of a treat.
Yeah.
And actually, like a lot of the wildlife out here is not used to people. So we've got a lot of wildlife out here, but a lot of the wildlife is still very cautious around people. So there's certain animals that we have a good amount of, but people are like, "Where where's your deer?" Like, they're hiding. Because they're not used to people. They're not used
Yeah.
to people hiking our trails or in our campgrounds, and so they're gonna be hiding. It'll take them a little while to act a little more like what you're used to seeing in other parks. But yeah, we do have deer. I had somebody tell me earlier this morning that they saw a doe with a fawn out in the park today. Our cottontails are pretty comfortable around people, and so our day use areas will have cottontails running around. Our headquarters has cottontails running around. Road runners, we've got a lot of road runners that you'll see periodically. We've got the road runners, and we've got feral hogs, and we've got coyotes, and we've got rattlesnakes and rat snakes. We have tarantulas that migrate through here periodically.
Nice.
Fall migration, the monarchs love to roost along Palo Pinto Creek. We've got kingfishers that you'll see along our creeks and along the lake. We have bald eagles that make an appearance every once in a while. We have great blue herons. We have an endangered species called the golden cheek warbler out here. Just trying to think what else. Got lots of wildlife.
Speaking of the golden cheek warbler, how is the bird watching in the park? I had no idea about maybe about a year ago, Hannah with Choke Canyon, well, she's now at Corpus Christi. She came on the podcast and was talking about bird watching, and I'm like, "What?" And I had no idea what a draw to a state park bird watching is. So how is it in your park?
Yes. Bird watching is really good. So we have folks that wanna come and see the golden cheek warbler. So golden cheeks, they migrate out here, so they're only here in the spring and the summer. End of the summer, they leave and go back to Mexico. We have a lot of really interesting birds out here, and there's been a lot of folks that have been interested in it, but also because of our different ecosystems, you'll see a lot of different types of birds. So yeah, the bird watching is pretty awesome. I had somebody today showing me some excellent photos that he got of a painted bunting and a summer tanager out here. We have several different types of woodpeckers that you'll find along the hardwood bottomlands. We have cranes make an appearance. I always hear them, and then I go down to try and catch a glimpse of them, and they're already leaving every
Yeah.
time. But they migrate through here as well. We've got several different types of owls out here. So if you're a nighttime birder, we also have the widow whippoorwill, which sings a lot at night, and they call back and forth to each other at night. It'll be dark out, but you'll still hear them calling back and forth to each other. When I do night hike programs, we go look for frogs and tadpoles down at Rocky Bottom. So we've got several different types of frog species out here as well. So good amount of wildlife and birds. You asked about birds, and I went on a total tangent.
Hey, that's awesome. And, it was funny because once I found that out, I started paying attention. Man, I got so hooked. I have 3 or 4 bird feeders in my backyard. I have bird houses, and man, it is such a joy just to sit, chill on the back porch and watch the birds. So
Yeah, they're fantastic.
it was a shock to me, and it's certainly addicting. So to the listeners, be careful if you're going to start bird watching because it is addicting.
But if you're gonna start bird watching, you should try downloading the Merlin Bird ID app. It is
Yes,
phenomenal for learning to ID different bird calls and what different birds look like and figuring out what's in your area. Excellent app. 10 out of 10 recommend. That is all I will say on that.
nice. So if you look at the park, are there any ongoing conservation efforts?
Mhm. Yeah, so there's the golden cheek warbler surveys that we do once a year to try and see how many of them are in our park and how they're doing. So the first survey we did while we were still under construction, and then this year we did a survey after we were open, and so people were here, and so it'll be really interesting to see what differences there are between those, if there are any differences.
Yeah.
So there's that. We also do spotlight surveys for deer. And we're wanting to do what are called browse surveys to see what it is that the deer are eating. So there's that. As far as conservation goes, we also remove invasive species, whether that is removing Johnson grass or poison hemlock or feral hogs, just going through and trying to remove those species so that we can have a healthy ecosystem. Sometimes removal of those species is a little more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Removing hogs is a little hard. Um,
Tell you what, I would love to remove the deer in my neighborhood because there's probably 30 or 40 deer in my backyard or in my front yard almost every morning, and they eat all my plants. So if you have success about how removing stuff, let me know.
but yeah, I think the three species that we focus on right now, anyways, is usually Johnson grass, poison hemlock, and feral hogs.
So, in your opinion, what are the biggest safety concerns visitors should be aware of when visiting the park?
So we have a lot of rock out here, and that is in and of itself a safety thing. But because of it, that means that like we have some decent sized cliffs to be aware of.
Yeah.
Our terrain for our trails can be kind of, as I have mentioned before, the elevation, the terrain. So people rolling their ankle on a rock and slipping and falling is one that we've gotten called about before. But also in those rocks, rattlesnakes really like the rocks and to hide in those rocks. Kind of being mindful of those things and watching out for those things. You leave the snakes alone, they'll leave you alone, but also don't go looking in rocks without knowing what you're doing. But there's definitely those. Heat is also another one. We get very humid because we've got three different bodies of water out here. So when it gets hot, it also gets humid, and humidity will take it out of you pretty quick,
Yeah.
especially when the temperature goes up. So those are probably the two biggest things that I would say is be mindful of all the rocks, whether you're walking on them or whether there's a local resident hiding in them, or being mindful of the heat and humidity that's out here.
So, kind of speaking of the heat, how intense is it in the summer? Is it like Enchanted Rock where, they're scanning the rock and it's like 160 degrees or 140 degrees?
I haven't scanned any of the rocks, but I kind of want to. Um,
Yeah.
so, as far as heat goes, like, we will have, like I said, some good humidity out here. And the heat, when you look at a thermometer, I feel like frequently I look at the thermometer and I'm like, it's not 100 degrees like what I would be used to out at Abilene. Now it does reach 100 degrees, but it doesn't reach 100 degrees out here as frequently as it did out at Abilene.
Yeah.
But we also have humidity on top of that. And
Yeah.
so it will feel way hotter than it might actually be. And because of that, because it's really humid, when you sweat, your sweat is supposed to evaporate and take that heat with you to cool you off. But if it's super humid, then the sweat doesn't evaporate, which makes it a little harder to keep cool sometimes. So, but right now, I think it's 91 outside, and I think it's like 60% humidity. I would have to double check that. But yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question a whole lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Okay.
to the listeners, it's just nothing different than normal Texas heat. Just be careful because it's going to be hot.
It's gonna be hot and it's gonna be humid.
So, speaking of the terrain, how does that impact rescues or emergencies there at the park? And, like, kind of my point is, like, when you out, I mean, and also, like, the if you talk about the quads, outside of it being out there by itself, which also impacts the time that rescuers can get to you, but the terrain is, something happens to you out there, you're probably looking at 12 to 16 hours before you can get some help. a lot of it is because of how isolated it is, but also just to get people out in the
Mhm.
park in that terrain. So how does the terrain impact you guys?
It's interesting. So our trails, like I said, we've got fairly wide trails, most of them. So we can get side by side down most of our trails. The one exception to that is Ben's Trail. Ben's Trail is less than a mile long, but the rest of our trails, we can get a side by side down to be able to go and help people if they need help. When you're looking at some of the distance of some of these trails, like for example, Texas and Pacific Trail, if you hike that entire thing, it's 11 miles. And so there are portions of that trail that might take us, even on a side by side, might take us 30 minutes to get to.
Yeah.
That is definitely one thing. The creek crossings, we've got Palo Pinto Creek Loop Trail crosses Palo Pinto Creek 7 times. So being mindful of where the water levels are on that. If water levels get too high, we do close that trail. But we also have a spillway that gets water on it. And so there's lots of opportunities to slip on slick rocks. The most likely rescues that we've been doing are either heat related or somebody rolling their ankle on a loose rock. Those are the most common ones. So those are usually what folks should watch for.
And what about cell service in the park?
Cell service in the park is very sketchy.
Okay.
The hills make service very interesting. There are portions of the park where you are not going to have signal, but even if you don't have signal, most, oh goodness, cell phone services will still do what's called SOS. And so if something goes wrong, when it says SOS, your phone basically becomes a satellite phone. So you can still contact emergency services and tell them where you are and that you need help, and then we can come and get you.
So this is going to be a hard question because I'm going to take away the obvious answer. But
Okay.
in your opinion, what is one item everyone should bring while hiking in the park? And you can't say water.
Can't say water.
No.
That is my favorite one. Bring water.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to say sun protection, which I'll still say sun protection.
Okay.
Whether it's a hat or sunscreen or anything like that. I'm gonna say a red light or a UV light.
Hmm. All right.
Reason being is if you are exploring our trails at night, the red light does not disturb wildlife the same way that yellow or white light or blue light does.
Yeah.
And so it's a great way to still see where you're going, and kind of see what's around you, but still getting to see behavior by wildlife that is more natural. I'm a big proponent for everyone bring a red light, but the UV lights will allow you to see scorpions, centipedes, and some spiders.
You guys got scorpions?
Yes, yes, we do.
Mm,
So, and the UV light makes them glow like bright fluorescent type glow.
nice. What about the weather there at the park? And so the question is, how quickly can the weather conditions change out there? And what I mean by that, if I'm going to go hike in the park, of course, I'm going to do, okay, what's the weather going to look like in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 hours? And you kind of have a plan of what's going to happen. And I would say that's probably most state parks in Texas. You would kind of, you don't really need to worry about some kind of surprise thunderstorms or something, which is completely different in the quads. Like that weather changes, and I've been almost to one of the peaks, and I got hit with a blizzard. Had no idea it was coming. I saw it off in the distance. It wasn't in the forecast. So should hikers or campers be worried about weather conditions, meaning that something that's not predictable can happen?
Um, Not in my experience out here. So most of the weather is fairly predictable. Like if you look at your weather app and you see there's a 50% chance of rain today, that means that there's a 50% it's going to be a coin toss whether or not we get rain. So I've even had weather apps differentiate between rain and thunderstorms. And so that is usually pretty accurate in my experience. If you get weather alerts about being on the watch for tornadoes or severe thunderstorms, like those are usually accurate and those are good things to not take lightly,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to things like tornadoes. If there is a tornado watch, I always get watch and warning mixed up. If if the conditions are right for there to be a tornado, like in the past year, I believe, we have had a couple of significant tornadoes in our county. So one that hit the elementary school at Gordon last year, and then earlier this year there was one that hit Mineral Wells. When you see those alerts, like they are real, take like heed those warnings that the weather service puts out. And like I said, we do have storm shelters in the park. We've got 3 of them.
How many people can a storm shelter hold?
So our storm shelters are our 2 bathhouses and the
Mhm.
restroom that's outside of headquarters. So
Okay.
they're decent sized facilities and they should be able to fit the folks that are in the park.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the actual number is.
Yeah.
They are significant buildings that are able to hold a decent amount of people.
Alright, so for someone on the fence about visiting the park, what would you tell them?
Come on out.
Come on out.
Come on out. See it for yourself. Um, if you're unsure of things, hang out at our day use areas. If you're unsure about like how you feel about going out on the trails, just hang out in the day use areas. Crappie Cove Day Use has a phenomenal fishing pier and it has kayak rentals. So you can kind of play it by ear, see how you're feeling for the day. We also have Canyon View that has
Yeah.
one of the best views of the sunset and of the train in the park. And it has a playground and picnic areas. So come out and experience those day use areas and kind of get a feel for the park. Talk with a ranger,
Yeah.
figure out what to expect, whether it's weather or safety or trails. Ask them what their trail recommendations are. And they might ask you like, how long do you want to hike? What are you feeling? Do you want a view or do you want a little bit of a challenge? Like we'll ask we'll ask questions to kind of give you the best recommendations. Or even come to our headquarters building, see our interpretive center, learn a little bit about the history and ecology of the area. So just come on out here.
So, as we kinda start to wrap up, the last few questions, and I think these, to me, are some of the most important questions, is as your park grows in popularity, which it certainly will, how can people, visitors be good stewards of the park?
Being good stewards of the park, being mindful of your speed when you're going through the park. We have hills that our roads go on as well, and so it becomes very easy to speed when you're going downhill. Not only is that a potential safety hazard for other visitors, but it can also be a problem for wildlife that might be trying to cross the road. So make sure to be mindful of that. If you see trash, pick up your trash, especially if you're somebody who likes to fish, make sure that you're picking up all of the fishing line. So, and if you're camping in the park or staying overnight, turn off your lights at night. So, folks sometimes like to have their lights on because they want to be able to see if there's a critter when they walk out. Just turn your lights on when you're headed out and turn them back off when you go back in for the night.
Yeah.
Or if you're sitting out there for the evening, just turn your lights off, let your eyes adjust. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes for your eyes to fully adjust to the dark and just look at those stars. So,
Nice.
turn out your lights, pick up the trash, and make sure that you're watching your speed when you're in the park.
And I'm gonna add to your answer, don't engrave your names on docks, on trees, because guess what? No one cares that who your boyfriend or girlfriend is. No one cares what year you visited the park. Just,
Yes.
you know
Also, we're a new park. We are a new park. We want to keep it looking nice. We don't need names carved into our brand new fishing dock.
Exactly. And also in the fire rings, don't leave your trash in the fire rings
That's part of picking up your trash. Pick it up.
Yes. I was at Lake Brownwood, on my way to Caprock for a night, and, yeah, the firing there probably had about 380 cigarette butts in the fire ring,
Oh my gosh.
and so I always as a hiker backpacker, I always have trash bags with me in my car
Mhm.
and in my backpack, and so I picked them up, but I'm like, "Man," I even made a video, "Don't be this person," and I hope they
Yeah.
saw it.
So, but yeah, and we've had folks that pick up their trash, they put it all in a trash bag, and I don't know if they forgot about the trash bag, but they left it, and then overnight, like I said, we've got crafty raccoons,
Yep,
ripped open that bag and spread it all over the area.
yep, and it's the same thing about hikers that take dogs and they pick up the dog poo and they just
Yeah,
leave it at the trailhead.
yeah. So, I don't know if
Yeah,
folks intend to come and pick it up on their way back, but yeah, it just just pick it up.
yep, pick it up, take it with you.
Mhm.
Alright, to me, this is probably the most important question, and I try to always remember to ask all the state parks, and what, in your opinion, is the best way so I guess there's 2 parts to this. What is the best way for people to get connected to the park and to see all the wonderful things that you all are doing, whether it's projects, whether it's, programs. So how can the listeners get connected to you guys?
So, the way that most people start with getting connected to us is actually through our social media. But if you're wanting to go beyond social media, our friends group is a phenomenal resource. So, anytime that we have a work day in the park or we need volunteers to help with something in the park or we have an event that we need help with, whether it's a field trip or like an event,
Yeah,
we go to our friends group first. So anytime that we need help with anything, it is the best way to get actively involved with our park is to get involved with our friends group. And they are Palo Pinto Mountain State Park partners.
okay,
Um, So, like, I just met with one of our, friends group members just a couple of days ago about doing guided trail rides out at the park, for folks who wanna bring their horses out and have somebody guide them through the park. So hoping to be able to start offering that soon out here. The star parties, it was somebody from our friends group that said, "Hey, we're also a part of Fort Worth Astronomical Society and we want to do star parties out here." Great. Let's talk about it and see how we can get involved.
yeah,
Yeah, when I needed help with doing different field trips, I reached out to our friends group and there were lots of folks who were former educators that were ecstatic to come out and help. So just a lot of great ways to get involved with our friends group.
and what about donations? Is it directly to the park through the park, or is it through the friends group to kinda maybe support some of these initiatives even if the people can't be there to volunteer?
Yeah, so when you join our friends group, there's annual dues that you pay, and all of the profits from the friends group goes towards helping our park.
Nice.
So once a year, they do a silent auction, and you can watch it on their page online, and you can put your bet down on different items on their Facebook page. And again, all of those proceeds go to helping the park with whatever it is that we need help with. Because sometimes working for the government, sometimes there's red tape on things that we need to get right away,
Yeah,
and the friends group helps cut through some of that red tape. They're the reason that we have a track chair and 2 grit wheelchairs. They are the reason that we have, scenery viewers on our, fishing dock. They have been absolutely phenomenal at helping with trail clearing when we were still under construction so that crews could come through and do work on the trails. Yeah, they're a phenomenal group.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, Kate, are you ready for the last question?
Let's go.
All right. I know we talked about a lot of wonderful things about the park, but sell the listeners, make it so salesy that they throw this park on their bucket list for this summer, this upcoming fall, winter. Why should they visit?
Y'all should come to visit because Palo Pinto Mountain State Park is where human ingenuity and the challenges of the beauty of nature collide. So come out here and see it,
Nice.
whether it is experiencing the history of Native Americans and how they used to survive on this land, or the Industrial Revolution that carved a way for the railroad to how we became a state park today, or experiencing the beauty of our overlooks, or our sunsets, or our wildflowers, or the plethora of beautiful, colorful birds that we have out here, kayaking, any of it, all of it. This is where you will see human innovation and nature just absolutely collide, and it's gorgeous.
Nice. I love it. Well, Kate, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and giving us all the wonderful information about Palo Pinto Mountain State Park. I can't wait to get out there. I think this coming hiking season for me, I think we kick it off, or I kick it off usually in September. Definitely going to be hitting the state parks, and especially all the ones that have come on as guests. And so again, I can't thank you enough. Yeah, it's been a true pleasure, and I hope to see you in the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for chatting with me, Jason. This has been fun.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.